Today's question comes from Willie Campbell, who asks, if you table a question or comment, when can you bring it back to the table or cancel it? So this refers to the motion to lay on the table, which allows the Assembly to set aside the pending question temporarily to take up a more urgent matter. There are several issues we need to address with this question, but let me know in the comments if your organization uses the motion to lay on the table or to table and how your organization uses it, because most organizations use it incorrectly, and they often use it in a way that violates members' rights. So let me know your experiences in the comments. Now let's dive into today's question. First, Willie's question says, if you table a question or comment. The concept of laying a comment on the table is not a part of parliamentary law, and we will cover that at the end of the video. First, we'll look at laying a question on the table. And it should be understood that in parliamentary law, a motion is often referred to as a question because a motion is a proposal that presents a yes or no question for the Assembly to decide. So let's talk about laying a question on the table. But remember that this refers to the pending motion, which is before the Assembly for consideration. This does not refer to an inquiry made by a member such as, what is the current balance of the building improvement fund? That's not the type of question we're talking about here. This might be the type of question Willie was talking about, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it's not the type of question we're talking about now. Remember, when we say question, we're talking about a motion. So first, let's cover how a motion would properly be laid on the table. I say properly because far too often, the motion to lay on the table is used incorrectly. In most cases, a different motion should be used instead. We'll cover these misuses and proper uses in a different video. For now, let's just take a look at a proper example. Let's say a motion that $100 shall be donated to the ABC Foundation is being considered by the Assembly when it is discovered that another matter needs urgent attention. Well, the Assembly can't just move to another matter because it must first dispose of the matter it is currently considering, the motion that $100 shall be donated to the ABC Foundation. This is where the motion to lay on the table comes in. Any member can make a motion to lay the pending question on the table, which would set the pending question aside temporarily so that the Assembly could then take up the urgent matter that has arisen. Now, it probably goes without saying, but let's say it anyway. When something is laid on the table, there's no actual table involved. In parliamentary law, to lay a motion on the table really means to place it in the care of the Secretary. You can find this definition in Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition in section 17, paragraph 5. So what happens when a motion has been laid on the table in this manner and you want to later bring it back for consideration? Well, there's a specific motion for that. It is called take from the table. Let's say a motion was pending that $100 shall be donated to the ABC Foundation. And let's say that motion was laid on the table because something more urgent needed to be taken care of. Once that intervening urgent matter has been disposed of, and when no other motion is currently pending, any member can obtain the floor and say, I move to take from the table the motion relating to donating $100 to the ABC Foundation. This requires a second, it's not debatable, and it requires a majority vote to adopt. If it receives a second, the chair puts it to an immediate vote without debate. If it does not receive a majority vote, the motion simply remains on the table and the Assembly moves on to its next item of business. However, if the motion to take from the table does receive a majority vote, it is taken from the table and placed before the Assembly for consideration, becoming the pending motion. It is possible for more than one motion to be on the table, and if that's the case, the member would need to identify which motion he proposes to take from the table. If, on the other hand, there's only one motion on the table, you could theoretically just move to take the motion from the table and leave it to the chair to remind members of what that motion is before putting the vote on taking it from the table. Now, a question can be taken from the table at the same session where it was laid on the table. So let's say at the May regular meeting, a motion is made and seconded and placed before the Assembly for consideration. And then let's say it is laid on the table. It can, of course, be taken from the table at that session. However, what happens to it if it's not taken from the table at that session? Well, if the next regular session will be held within a quarterly time interval, then the motion can be taken from the table at that session as well. So the motion that was laid on the table at the May regular meeting can be taken from the table at the June regular meeting. And if a special meeting is held between the May regular meeting and the June meeting, The motion on the table could be taken from the table in that special meeting if considering the motion was mentioned in the call of the meeting. However, if a special meeting is held without taking the motion from the table, the motion remains on the table and can still be taken from the table at the next regular session, so long as it is held within a quarterly time interval from the session where the motion was laid on the table. If the question is not taken from the table within this time frame, the motion dies. However, the motion could be renewed at any later session. I think there's one more possibility we need to cover here. Perhaps the word question in Mr. Campbell's inquiry is referring to a situation where a member asks a question in a meeting. For example, what is the current balance of the building improvement fund? And let's say the presiding officer incorrectly says, can we table this question for now so we can get on with our business? And let's say the member who asked the question agrees. And now Mr. Campbell wants to know how we get back to that question. Well, as we've already covered, this situation has nothing to do with the motion to lay on the table. And this inquiry about the balance of the building improvement fund is not on the table. Only motions are laid on the table, and even those are laid on the table very rarely. So what happened to the inquiry about the building improvement fund? Well, we need to understand about parliamentary inquiries and requests for information. A member has a right to make a parliamentary inquiry, and Robert's Rules of Order provides the following. A parliamentary inquiry is a question directed to the presiding officer to obtain information on a matter of parliamentary law or the rules of the organization bearing on the business at hand. Robert's Rules of Order goes on to say, it is the chair's duty to answer such questions when it may assist a member to make an appropriate motion, raise a proper point of order, or understand the parliamentary situation or the effect of a motion. So the chair can't put off such a question if it relates to the business at hand. A member also has a right to make a motion called a request for information. Robert's Rules of Order provides the following. A request for information, also called a point of information, is a request directed to the chair or through the chair to another officer or member for information relevant to the business at hand, but not related to parliamentary procedure. So a parliamentary inquiry is about procedure, and a request for information is not. But the important thing to remember here is that a member has a right to ask a question if the question is relevant to the business at hand. If this is the type of inquiry you're asking about, such a question is in order whenever it relates to the business at hand. If the inquiry is not related to the business at hand, the chair may rule that it is not in order at this time, and the member would have to wait for an appropriate time to make the inquiry. This ruling by the chair, of course, is subject to an appeal, which would be decided by a vote of the assembly, with a majority required to overturn the decision of the chair. Now, Mr. Campbell's original question also contained the word comment, and this is a little confusing. A comment certainly can't be laid on the table, and a member does not have a right to make a comment in a meeting, except that any member may speak in debate on a debatable motion while it is being considered, whether the member is speaking in favor or opposed to the motion. That covers how do you take a motion from the table. You simply make the motion to do just that. Let me know in the comments below if this video was helpful or if there's anything else that you would like for me to cover on this topic. Also, let me know if you like the question and answer format, and feel free to drop any suggestions in the comments below. These videos are for you guys, and I want to make sure you're getting the most out of them. And as always, if you have questions about your association, your rights as a member, or your role as an officer, feel free to post them in the comments section below or visit us at perfectrules.com. Not only will we provide you with a response, but we may feature your question in one of our Q&A videos. And don't forget to click the subscribe button for more videos like this one. Thank you very much.